You have a photo of yourself from before you could talk. Maybe you're sitting in a high chair. Maybe you're covered in spaghetti sauce. You have seen this photo 100 times, but you don't remember it. Not really. You remember the photo. You don't remember the moment. And here's the strange part. You were there. You were fully conscious. Your eyes were working. Your ears were working. Your brain was firing billions of signals every second. So where did all of it go? Most people call this baby brain. They assume an infant's mind is just too underdeveloped to hold on to anything. Too simple. Too small. But the real answer is far stranger than that. Your brain wasn't failing to record those years. It was actively building the very tool it would later use to store memories at all. And by the time that tool was finished, the earlier version of you was already gone. This is called infantile amnesia. Psychologists have studied it for over a century. Sigmund Freud first noticed it back in the 1890s and assumed it was repression, some dark mechanism hiding painful early experiences from your conscious mind. He was wrong about the cause. But he was right about one thing. The forgetting is universal. Almost no one, anywhere, in any culture, remembers anything before the age of 2. Most people's earliest memories don't even start until age 3 or 4. Ask yourself right now, what is the very first thing you remember? Chances are, you were already walking, already talking, already a person with a name you understood was yours. So what happened to everything before that? Your brain at birth is not empty. It is overflowing. A newborn's brain contains close to 100 billion neurons, almost the same number an adult has. What it doesn't have yet are stable connections between them. Neuroscientist Patricia Bauer, who has spent decades studying memory development in children, found that the brain region responsible for forming long-term memories, the hippocampus, is still under construction well into early childhood. It's not offline, it's recording. But it's recording onto a system that keeps getting rebuilt before anything can be permanently saved. Think of it like writing in wet sand at the edge of the ocean. You can write all day. The words are real. They exist for a moment. But the tide doesn't care. It comes in and it rewrites the entire shoreline. And what you wrote is gone. Not because it was fake, but because the surface itself wasn't finished forming. Here's where it gets stranger. For decades, scientists assumed those early memories were simply never created. Encoded and then erased, maybe, but mostly just absent. Then, a researcher named Paul Franklin at the University of Toronto ran an experiment that changed the conversation entirely. He worked with infant mice, and he used a technique called optogenetics, which lets scientists activate specific memory cells using light. Franklin's team taught baby mice to fear a certain environment, then waited until the memory should have naturally faded, the mouse equivalent of infantile amnesia. And when they shined light onto the specific neurons that had stored that fear memory, the fear came back, instantly, fully. The memory hadn't disappeared, it had only become inaccessible. Let that sit for a second. The memory was still there. The brain just lost the key to the door. Why would evolution build a brain that does this? Why record something it intends to lock away? The leading theory points to something happening in your hippocampus during early childhood that almost never happens again at the same speed. Neurogenesis, the explosive birth of brand new neurons. Your brain, in its first few years, is creating new brain cells at an almost unbelievable rate, wiring and rewiring itself constantly to handle the avalanche of new information coming in. Learning to focus your eyes, learning gravity exists, learning that your hand and the object it's reaching for are connected, learning language itself, arguably the single most complex skill a human brain will ever acquire. But new neurons need space. And in many cases, that space gets carved out of networks that were storing older information. Franklin's research suggests this flood of new brain cells may actually overwrite, or at least bury, the memory circuits built before it. Your brain wasn't ignoring your first years of life. It was sacrificing them, trading the memories for the very architecture that would let you have memories at all, later, as a more complete person. This means somewhere in your skull right now, there might be a perfectly preserved record of the first time you saw your mother's face, the first time you felt cold, the first time you were truly, properly scared. You just can't find the door. There's something else going on here too, something less biological and more architectural. To remember an event the way adults remember events, you need a sense of self that exists across time. Psychologist Endel Tulving called this episodic memory the ability to mentally time travel, to place I inside a specific moment and know that the I remembering it now is the same I who lived it then. Most toddlers don't have a stable sense of I yet. Studies on self-recognition, like the classic mirror test, show that most children don't even recognize themselves in a mirror as themselves until somewhere between 15 and 24 months old. Before that point, there's no consistent narrator to file the memory under. The experience happens, but there's no you yet stable enough to own it. So even if the recording survived, there was no name on the folder. There's a deeper layer to this too, one that took researchers even longer to untangle. Memory isn't actually one single system, it's several. There's procedural memory, the kind that lets you ride a bike or tie your shoes without thinking about the steps. There's semantic memory, the facts you know, like the capital of a country or the rules of a game. And there's episodic memory, the kind tied to a specific place and time, the kind that says, this happened to me here, then. Babies build procedural and even some semantic memory shockingly early. A baby can learn to recognize a parent's voice, learn the rhythm of a lullaby, learn that a certain face means safety, all without ever forming a single conscious narrative memory of doing so. So in a very real sense, your earliest years aren't gone. They're just stored in a part of you that doesn't come with pictures attached. Your sense of comfort around certain voices, your instinctive trust or wariness around strangers. Some of that may have been written before you could speak a single word, and it's still running quietly underneath everything you do, even though you can't point to the moment it was installed. This is part of why infantile amnesia fascinated Freud so much in the first place, even though his explanation missed the actual biology. He noticed something true. Adults are haunted by things they cannot consciously recall. He just assumed it was about hidden trauma being suppressed. The truth turned out to be both less dramatic and somehow more unsettling. It isn't that your mind is hiding something terrible from you. It's that the architecture required to hold a narrative memory simply wasn't finished being built yet. There was no vault to hide anything in. There was only scaffolding, and scaffolding doesn't keep records. Researchers studying this have found something else that should reframe how you think about your own childhood entirely. The age at which infantile amnesia ends isn't fixed. It shifts depending on culture, depending on how a child is raised, even depending on how often parents talk to their children about past events. Psychologists studying autobiographical memory have found that children raised in households where parents frequently ask elaborative questions about past events tend to develop earlier and more detailed autobiographical memories than children who aren't asked these questions as often. Memory, in other words, isn't purely a biological clock ticking on its own. It's partly built through language, through being asked to narrate your own life back to someone else over and over until the habit of narrating becomes the habit of remembering. Which means somewhere in your own childhood, an adult asking you, "And then what happened?" may have been quietly teaching your brain how to keep memories at all. Now here's the modern mirror. The part of this that should make the hair on your arm stand up a little. You are still doing this, right now. Not at the same explosive scale as when you were 2 years old, but the exact same mechanism is still running in your skull as an adult. Your hippocampus is still creating new neurons throughout your entire life, just far more slowly. Every single day, your brain is quietly overwriting, reorganizing, and reshaping memory networks you don't even know exist. That perfect, vivid memory you have of a conversation from 5 years ago? Cognitive scientists have shown again and again that human memory is not a recording. It's a reconstruction. Every time you recall something, you are not playing back a tape. You are rebuilding the moment from fragments, and in the rebuilding, you change it slightly. Elizabeth Loftus spent her entire career proving this, showing how easily false details can slide into real memories until you can no longer tell which parts actually happened and which parts your brain quietly invented to fill in the gaps. In other words, the forgetting you experienced as a baby never really stopped. It just slowed down enough that you stopped noticing it happen. This is happening to your most treasured. This is happening to your most treasured memories right now, even the ones you'd swear are untouched. Think of a memory you'd call core to who you are. Your first kiss. The day you got some piece of devastating news. The moment you held something you'd worked years for. You'd bet your life that memory is accurate, frozen exactly as it happened. But cognitive scientists who study what's called flashbulb memory, the vivid high-emotion memories people form during huge events, have found something humbling. When they ask people to describe these unforgettable moments right after they happen, then ask the same people to describe them again years later, the details shift, sometimes dramatically. People will swear with complete confidence that small invented details actually happened. Confidence and accuracy, it turns out, are almost entirely unrelated. You can feel 100% certain about a memory that is, in places, simply wrong. You walk around assuming your memory is a library. Shelves, books, fixed and waiting to be pulled down exactly as they were placed. But it's not a library. It's closer to wet sand at the edge of an ocean that never stops moving. Tonight, while you sleep, your brain will quietly rebuild parts of itself again. Tomorrow, you won't notice anything missing. You never do. That's the part nobody warns you about. The version of you reading this sentence right now is already, slowly, being rewritten into someone slightly different. The baby in that high chair didn't lose their memories because something went wrong. You're not missing those years because of a flaw. You're missing them because your brain was busy building the only thing that would ever let you hold on to anything at all, including this exact moment, the one you're in right now, the one you also won't fully remember.